It is officially summer camp because it's too dang hot.
You are Locked On Huskers, your daily podcast on the Nebraska Cornhuskers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, gang, DP here, Locked On Huskers. Thank you for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day. The numbers are growing. Husker Nation is growing. We're waking up from the deep sleep, and it's almost regular season. Well, lots to talk about here on Locked On Huskers. What I'll ask you to do, sit tight. Mark Onweiler will tell you about Betterhelp.
Thank you, DP. This episode of Locked On Huskers is sponsored by Betterhelp. Sometimes in life, we're faced with tough choices, and the path forward isn't always clear. Whether you're dealing with decisions around career, relationships, or anything else, therapy helps you stay connected to what you really want while you navigate life, so you can move forward with confidence and excitement. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnCollege today and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnCollege. DP, back to you.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. Greatly appreciate it. Lots to cover in the course of this episode of Locked On Huskers. Again, pause and hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so. If you have, greatly appreciate you for you everydayers. Thank you for coming and hang out with me for this 22 and a half minutes each and every single day. Greatly appreciate it. Your Huskers every single day. That's the get down. What we're going to talk about, heat. It's incredibly hot in Lincoln, Nebraska right now. We'll talk about what that process has been for the student athletes, what it's like for these football players. A lot of this, when you're talking heat and install, tempo is one of the words that is getting thrown about in Husker Nation. Tempo, offensive tempo. We'll talk about that as well. And then the crafting of a game week and what it's like and why, with an August 31st date, that Friday night changes the schedule a little bit. And Matt Rhule and this group has it in their plans to figure out how to make that as normal and as comfortable as possible for this Husker football roster. But first, in case you missed it, in case you're somewhere else in the rest of the country, but here in Lincoln, Nebraska, 100 plus, and it's authentic. This is a real, heavy, sweaty, lean on you, 105, 106 degree. And for those, there are folks who immediately will say, oh, yeah, football weather. No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's weather to measure yourself. It's weather to lose weight in and to become dehydrated, to cramp up, to pass out from the heat. But Nebraska is figuring out a way to turn it into a positive, to adjust the way you approach practices, to be cognizant of the people around you, forcing players and coaches to communicate and to stay in touch. Hey, how's your head? How you feeling? Are you with me? Hydrating, setting up hydration stations, being proactive in that and making sure that from day to day, that the previous night and that morning before you take the field, you're hydrated. If you get to the practice field and you're already dehydrated, you can't catch up. Not all the water, not all the Gatorade, not all the electrolytes in the world are going to catch you up if you go into this thing behind. So Nebraska has to be proactive in its approach. Its nutrition staff and its trainers have been very, very loud and very proud about Nebraska's choice, its ability to prepare athletes for situations like this, for game situations like this, for practice situations like this, for workout situations like this, to have a plan about how you're going to approach this. And listen, a lot of the heat talk, immediately you go to, well, it toughens you physically, toughens you mentally, because you have to have conversations with yourself. You have to have conversations with yourself about, okay, am I taking care of myself? Am I doing the right thing? Does this feel normal to me? Am I aware? Am I cognizant of everything around me? What about my teammate? Is my teammate next to me? How's he doing? Is he feeling okay? Is he moving in athletic arrogance? And having your eyes towards your teammates to make sure that, listen, they're okay too. Communicating with coaches about, listen, coach, go ahead, we're good. Like, we're good. Having a coach look you in the eye and say, okay, do you need to sit one out? That communication makes the coach better, makes the player better, makes everybody safer all the way around. The other side of this is some of the conversation recently was about the new facilities for Nebraska football and the fact that Recovery Center, this is Recovery Center 101. This is elite level stuff. And having hydration systems and recovery tables and vacuums that take care of players' bodies. When players tell you that they're losing anywhere from 8 to 12 pounds per practice in fluid, you have to replace that. And you have to have enough in you before you start the workout so that your body does not react negatively. Dehydration is a monster. It's a beast. And if you're trying to play catch up on the field or on the sideline, it's too late. You need to hydrate before. These Husker players have been exceptional in it. It's been a part of the normal conversations. To eat right, to hydrate, and to prepare yourselves. That's what's happening in this case. And then, listen, Nebraska's aware that everybody's going through this. It's a little, it's tough times. But these practices are preparation. It's pure preparation, allowing you to narrow down your focus, allowing you to work on the operations. Can you communicate in chaos? Can you get the right personnel on and off the field? Can the coaches communicate with simple single verbiage? And then, quite frankly, for you to measure whether a player is in shape or not. And often in shape looks different in different sports. But in football, with all of the equipment, with all of the pads, with all the covering, all of the head-to-head contact, inadvertent or not, to pay attention to sweating. And God bless Ethan Piper. He spoke. Listen, he goes, I'm a sweater. He goes, I sweat a lot. Losing 10 pounds throughout the course of practice, and then being aware that means that he needs to hydrate in advance. He needs to hydrate during, and then he needs to hydrate, replenish, and recover after. It is an important thing, and Matt Rhule has talked about this training staff and the nutritionists and all the things that they put in play. And then add to that the new football facility that is set up to make this recovery as easy and as common as possible for these Nebraska football players. There's a lot of work, but there's a lot of heat. I mean, to tell you that if you walked outside of the building in Lincoln, Nebraska right now, you're going to feel like you took a shower, a very hot shower. And then you're going to have to take an actual shower because it is thick out there. We'll put a pin there, but when we come back, I want to talk about tempo and why I talked about heat first. Because if you're talking about playing physical and playing in tempo, conditioning is required. Being hydrated is required. The Huskers are working that out. We'll talk about offensive tempo and some of the other key words that pop up when you talk about Nebraska's offense here. Locked on Huskers. I'm DP. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Locked On Huskers. We appreciate you making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single morning, if you would. Mark Onweiler, kind sir, if you would you let our listeners and our family know about FanDuel?
Thank you, DP. This episode of Locked On Huskers is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season's about to kick off, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to win all season long. Because right now, when you bet on a Super Bowl winner, you can get bonus bets every time they win during the regular season. Just pick any team to win the Super Bowl, and you'll get bonus bets for every victory. You can use your bonus bets on spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and start earning your bonus bets with America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. DP, back to you.
Thank you, kind sir. Greatly appreciate you, Mark Onweiler. In talking about heat and then its effect on players, both on every side of the ball and on special teams, and the coaches who run this, and the staff who does this, who's out there, putting the work in as well. It is weight. That's how hot it is. It's weight. It's burden. It's a thing. You feel it, and it sits on top of you. But Nebraska's offensive coordinator Marcus Satterfield and head coach Matt Rhule have talked about playing fast and physical, playing with tempo. Tempo is the natural rhythm of flow, and it is consistent, and you can't get out of sync. In order for you to get from point A to point B, tempo is required all the way along the way in full balance. Nebraska is trying to figure out what its offensive ID and identity and personality is going to be. And they've chosen and deemed that we need to play fast and physical. We need to know the playbook, and there needs to be tempo. We need to play at a pace that makes people uncomfortable. We need to be able to get in and out of huddles. We need to be able to rally in and relay in plays. Nebraska has a real communications chore on its hands. But they figured out that, listen, we want to play fast, but we can't just play fast. We can't rush plays just for the sake of rushing it. We want to be fast and physical. We want to be fast and informed. We want to be fast and prepared. That you can't go quick just for the sake of going quick. And then trying to put a quickness in, a rhythm in, 105 degrees leaning on your shoulder and on the back of your neck is not the easiest thing to deal with. Nebraska wants to play at tempo. X number of plays, X number of drive, being able to communicate, getting the right players on the field, getting the wrong players off, getting the play call in, allowing time for the quarterback to make a secondary read as he lines up behind center, having the center be aware of what's going on, to get the ball from the umpire, get the ball in his hands, get in his stance, allow his offensive linemen to line up on his heels based on that, to allow the receivers, the tight ends to line up, allowing the running backs to line up. And, oh, by the way, before the defense can evaluate the personnel on the field, down and distance, and who you have and how many plays you want to run, all of that is tempo, making defenses uncomfortable and being consistent in it. Don't go fast just to go fast. Go fast with purpose. Get used to, in 105 degrees, being able to handle 8 run plays in a row, or 8 passes in a row. And the real thing is that often defenses lose because of tempo. Execution is just the result of being prepared for situation and circumstance. But 105 degrees and a tempo that is consistent. Consistently, it's like being peppered with a jab. Jab, jab. And after a while it's not a left hook, it is a jab and it has effect. And then later on, you realize that it's getting through easier. It's having more impact. Oh, by the way, I'm going to tap out. Nebraska is trying to figure out, from a tempo standpoint, how many plays a game, and if it's 65 plays, how they feel about it and how comfortable they are, what they want to accomplish in that. And I'll say this. When you hear Marcus Satterfield and Matt Rhule talk about offensive tempo, jump immediately to the number of points it's going to take to win a football game against an opponent. And I know that sounds simple, but I can tell you that in some coaching rooms, the most difficult of conversation is asking coaches to identify what each group needs to be to the team in order for that to happen. And it's never balanced, and it's usually not fair. But Nebraska is going to have to figure out who it is, what it is. Can they run 75, 85 plays a game and still be effective? What is the running back distribution? Is there a change in quarterback and identifying down and distance? Are there different receivers? Do I need to go and with 2 tight ends? Do I need to go with 3? Do I need to go with 1? Do I need to go with none? Can I run the ball with 3 tight ends on the field? Can I throw the ball with 3 tight ends on the field? And the tempo wears on you. Speed, unnecessary, unplanned, undisciplined speed is just a nuisance. Being organized in your tempo, in your vibe, that has a greater impact. And Nebraska's trying to figure out now what they're going to do with this thing. Listen, it's hard to focus when you're overheating and you're fatigued. It's extremely difficult. Then it becomes a challenge to do basic things well. If your focus is on how hot it is and the sweat pouring into your eyes and cramping in your calf muscles or in your hamstrings, tempo is affected. Nebraska has a chance in this crazy, ridiculous heat to set a new standard for its football team. Can it handle the sun? Not sure. I'm not sure they're sure. And another thing that, before we go to break, another thing that has jumped into play, that Jeff Sims handling a football, handing it or play faking to Gabe Ervin, handing it or play faking to Ramir Johnson or Anthony Grant. When it's 105 degrees, your forearms are sweating, your hands are sweating, sweat's pouring into your eyes, and somehow, at a mesh point, you have to feel it. You have to know what it's like to ride the belly to a wet jersey or with a sweaty, wet football. Nebraska is working on the small details, the necessary details for them to be successful in Minneapolis, no matter what the weather is, no matter what degree, no matter what level of humidity. Nebraska won't care. Minnesota won't care. They better figure out how to get it done. It's going to be busy. We'll throw it a break. Almost game week, a Friday kickoff, plus the travel, plus a new roster that's not familiar with Nebraska's way of doing business. We'll talk about that all when we come back. Locked On Huskers. Once again, thank you. We want to thank the folks from FanDuel. We want to thank the folks from Betterhelp. Look, we appreciate you supporting Locked On Huskers and the Locked On Network. Greatly appreciate it across the board. We'll close out with this because I want to get this in. That heat affects practice, affects repetition, affects health, both mental health and physical health. Injuries happen. One of the great accelerators for injuries is an extreme level of weather. Whether it's too hot or too cold, there will be more players injured because of it. And then production is affected. It's hard to get 300-pound men to stay fluid, to stay active, to stay hydrated, and lean on one another if the weather is terrible. And a way to get an advantage, an offensive advantage, is tempo. The offensive players knowing that they can get through 6 straight plays of leaning on a defender and making a play. Or that they can have people rest and come in on 3rd down and change the game. Now, defenses can do that too. But you have to decide at some point who it is that you are, how you're going to get through it, and quite frankly, be on the clock to do it. Friday night kickoff, travel included. There's a walk around that morning, several meetings throughout the course of the day, nutritional meetings to make sure that even on the road, away from home, away from your comfort, that everybody's getting fed, they're getting the nutrients they need so that they can have success against Minnesota Friday night. Thursday night is a walkthrough day. The day before, it's a walkthrough day. No more injuries. Rehab. Making sure that folks are bundled up and they're taken care of and that they've got braces in the right places to make sure things happen nicely. There's tons of things that happen in it. Learning to eat on the road when somebody else is providing your food who may not have your interest at heart. It is a constant thing. The extra day's travel. And while it's still Minneapolis, it's still Minneapolis. It is not the longest trip in the Big Ten, but to start your season with a shortened staff and to choose that staff, but to know that you've got to get certain numbers. It's not going to be easy. It is not going to be easy game week. They will take practice. They will take Saturday off. Believe they'll practice Sunday. And then walk all the way through Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, take a travel day to get there, maybe walk through, shake it off, as Taylor Swift would say, shake it off, get some of that out of your system, some of that galactic acid out of your body and get it moving and break it down and get your nutrition right, figure out what you're going to eat on the road, handle per diems, handle ticket assignments to make sure that the people who are bugging you on your phone have tickets or you simply can tell them no. There are a lot of boxes to check for a new coach, a new coaching staff, and a new roster. To know those things, even at the toppest level, the highest level, from the guy that set this deal up. It's going to be tough times to prepare yourself for a Friday night game in Minneapolis. But that's the task. That is how we're going to do it. Listen, stay hydrated. Take care of yourselves out there. If you have a chance to hear me and hear this, stay hydrated. Take care of yourself. Thank you for hanging out with us for the 22 minutes. Thank you for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day. And thank you for allowing me to close this thing, as I always do, with the 3 words that mean so much. Go Big Red.